So you can catch from there.
You're welcome back, and in case you're just joining us, it's Tuesday's edition of the program, Morning Ride, and usually on the ride we have segments where we look at issues that are topical, most especially as it affects us as humans. And so there are different phases of topics. We have the spiritual topic, we have the political topic, we have the social topic, we have the economy topics, and these are all issues built around trending situations. And so joining us on our next conversation this morning, it's Reverend Peter Maya. And we are not going to be looking at spiritual issues now, but rather we'll be taking a look at an overview of our economy. So Reverend, we'd like to welcome you to our studio.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Good morning, viewer.
Good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so quickly, like I did say, by nomenclature, a lot of people have expected that would take off from the spiritual perspective. But this time around, it's obvious that you can also take a dive into the economy. So far, so good. Nigerians, they say, are very resilient people.
That's true.
Irrespective of what we might be going through, we can still run the course all through. So quickly, can you just respond to the state of the economy presently?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. The truth of the matter is, to answer to your question of being a pastor is a public servant. I buy from the market where everybody buys from. We patronize the shops and the services of everyone. But I want to talk about the economy like I was brought here to talk about. The truth of the matter is the economy is, biting hard on everyone. Both the high, the low, the middle class are all feeling the brunt of the economy. Not necessarily because there's a new government in town. I think from 2014 till now, about 10 years, there's been a decline gradually from, I think, about the time when the Chibok girls were taken out, where the tail end of Goodluck Jonathan's regime. Then we came to the Buhari era. There has been a steady decline. I think people voted Tinubu thinking that he will be a master, as he had proven in Lagos. But unfortunately, I think things have not yet come as we expect. Things are still biting. They've put in quite a good few policies here and there, but I think the masses have not yet seen the effect of those policies. Light is nowhere. In my house, I've not seen light for the last 3 days. Fuel is still very, very expensive. Diesel is worse, and all of that. So in spite of all what we read on the papers, I think the government needs to do more in order to help the masses feel the impact of their government.
Okay, so how would you access this administration now? We know that before the president came into power, he promised us so many things. In fact, his opening speech, he gave us so many promises. And in fact, that particular day, he removed fuel subsidy. Now, how would you access it? Do you think that there's actually going to be light at the end of the tunnel? Do you think he's on the right path? He actually has plans for us? Or do you see things actually collapsing? Like, he did not put so many modalities in place to see that he cushions the effect of I think this whole thing basically started when he said subsidy removal. Yeah, it's gone. And that was when things started skyrocketing. Yeah. Do you actually see light at the end of the tunnel? Is it a right step?
Yeah, I see light at the end of the tunnel because of his track record. But the way he went about it on May 29 was ill-advised. You had not come into an office, you have not seen the handover notes, you have not assessed what was on ground and what your predecessor was leaving. To make that statement was not properly advised. So that drove panic into the system, and a whole lot of, I'm sure you know Nigeria with the panic wave. Once you hear there's going to be a price increase from next month, people start stocking things, people start increasing their prices. So that effect, that panic effect came into the economy, and from May 29, everything skyrocketed. And I think they are just trying to grapple with it now. They've done quite everybody, including myself, of course, believe that that padding of the fuel price, which they call subsidy, was not necessary because it was biting so hard on our reserves. But the modality with which it was removed was absolutely ill-advised. I see light at the end of the tunnel. They are trying to work on the dollar. They are trying to bring down the prices of fuel. They are trying to encourage internal production through Dangote and all of that. But I think the only area they may not have been getting it right is the implementation. You can say anything you want to say, except it is properly implemented, especially at grassroots, you will not have the effect. For instance, I bring a very practical example. About a week today, Dangote said the pump price of diesel will be 1,000 naira. On Friday, we bought in our office, we bought at 1,400 naira. In fact, I had to tell my staff, go to all I call the notable filling stations, go to Northwest, go to NNPC, go to Rain Oil, and we bought at 1,400. Few days ago, we needed to buy some more supplies, and I heard it has come down to 1,300. But if the official price for pumping of diesel is 1,000, then I think Delta State, especially Asaba, which is a capital territory, should have people implementing to make sure that this is. And I had to, when I filled my tank yesterday, I had to ask one of the attendants, why is diesel not 1,000? He said, we still have old stock. I said, this same story, and the guy was laughing. I said, for 1 month, you still have old stock. But before they say diesel will increase, all of you have increased your pump prices, you know. So I think,
they bought at,
yes, they bought
low price.
No, the thing is just with Nigerians, and that's where government needs to come in. You must implement. They've talked about NEPA or the PHCN. This is band A, you have this amount of light at this cost, you have this. Now implementation, I think, is where government needs to get it right. Government needs to get it right. So I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, but if we implement it.
Okay, looking at implementation as a policy, because obviously there's no saying the fact that government has said this should be the selling point, the pump price, and you're saying you have old stock. But if there's a need for increase now, you don't say you have old stock.
That's it. True.
You say you have new stock.
It's true.
Because so it is our attitude and it kind of builds up in our DNA that at the flip of the finger, there's always a sporadic increase in everything.
That's true. Everything.
It's not only for fuel or for diesel. You know,
a bag of rice is still selling at 75,000.
Yes.
Okay. Nigerians also have a way of saying when there's an increase in anything, they say it's as a result of dollar rise.
Yes.
Right? Even when you want to buy sugar, they say dollar has increased.
Even fruits that we produce here. Yes.
And I begin to ask, is it dollar that you used to buy it? Well, there's a way they commiserate the value price. Now dollars has eventually come down. And yet, Nigerians have this culture of not breaking prices.
That's true.
Can you comment on that?
Yes, I think it's man's inhumanity to man. Because the truth of the matter also is, while not absolving government totally, people get the government they deserve. That's where it is. These fellows we are talking about in leadership came out from us, who are the masses. So I think on that end, that's man's inhumanity to man. But on the other end, you must know, every policy is driven. I run an organization, even though it's a spiritual one. We have staff, we have members. There are things I say from the office that I occupy, and I find out that 1 or 2 persons in the system may not want it to take effect. So I make sure I get to the grassroots to be able to make sure I stamp my feet to make sure that these things are done. We do charity from time to time. We do welfare from time to time. I'm also aware that people will want to favor their relatives. People will want to favor those they are close to. People will want to favor their cabal, so to speak, in the system. So it behoves on leadership to come down to the level of grassroots and to begin to see that things are done. For instance, 2 days ago in Abuja, it trended that a supermarket, a Chinese supermarket, was barring Nigerians. And when it trended, everybody rushed to the scene. A while ago, you had a spiritual issue where a beloved man of God was a little bit harsh to one testifier in church. It trended on the internet, and they issued an apology. So I think government should respond to the masses outcry on the social media and begin to see that things are done. There is no excuse for a state capital not to have the prices that is had in the FCT and in major cities across. So if they are talking of places like Onichubo, some small villages, you will say, okay, maybe before implementation gets there, it will take a while. But we have no excuse not to implement at the state capital level. And I think that's where the challenges are.
Okay. So can you just tell us now, as Nigerians, how is this economic development affecting Nigerians?
It's biting on both the rich. Tomorrow, few days ago, school came back in session, especially the primary, secondary schools. I have a list of people who cannot pay school fees, a list on my table. We have the little ones we usually do sponsor every term to pay their school fees in our church. But I saw a massive list of people who cannot pay. And looking at that, it's not even the beginning of a session. The fees are a little bit smaller at this time. So it just shows you, it paints the picture. At Easter, we did some giveaway, giving food stuff and all of that palliative to members. I saw people who were working, those days we used to have widows, orphans. This time we had workers, civil servants, people working in banks, coming to queue up to take rice, to take oil. So it just tells you the picture that these guys, the economy is biting hard. So I think it's a general thing, and that's where I'm a little bit surprised that government is not trying to address that. Where is the salary increase for government workers? The government will be about 1 year old in the next 2 months. Even next month, May, where is the increment? Everything has skyrocketed. While you are trying to cushion the effect, trying to bring this down, why not say categorically, we'll pay the minimum wage to be 120, and let people begin to know we are even taking little steps. We may not, we can never solve the problems of Nigerians in 10 years. But if you are able to say, this is minimum wage, 100,000 or 120,000, the man who takes home 30 now knows that, okay, I have 100,000, let me begin to reprogram my plans. If you now say, oh, light will be available for 10 hours in a day, forget 24 hours, we can achieve it in a jiffy. 10 hours a day, people can now say, okay, I'll refrigerate my food, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll charge up all my systems. Today, everybody has a power bank, everybody has a solar fan, everybody has a generator, so government must come down to the grassroots to say, this is what I've done. And if you can give us light, even 12 hours a day, I think the masses will be clapping for the government. And they can do that. Cut down government costs, cut down your wage bills. Of course, they are trying to merge one or two, but I don't think that's enough. They should do the needful for the average man to be able to afford 3 square meters.
Okay.
So quickly, Reverend, I know growing up as a young child, we used to have, there was this level of social stratification where we had the upper class,
The middle class.
And
lower. But it's like the middle class seems to have been espoused.
It has disappeared. There's no middle class.
So what's the thought process? It's in, we're neither here nor there.
Yeah,
The rich also cry.
of course.
They understand. So is there any Eldorado at the end of the day? Taking a look at the crystal ball, for example.
If they are able to implement, my challenge still comes on implement. If they are able to implement, the truth of the matter is dollar has come down. You rightly said that. Prices have refused to come down. You have said diesel is 1,000 naira a liter. Diesel is still higher than that. You have said fuel is 620 naira in Lagos and 630 around the nation. I bought fuel yesterday, 695 naira. And so all of these indices must affect the middle class, the low class, even the high class, apart from those who government is cushioning their expenses. So government needs to clamp down on filling stations that are not complying, need to clamp down on banks that are still exchanging dollar at the abnormal rate, need to clamp down on BDCs, Bureau de changes. So government needs to do more, and it's not about the federal government only. The state government too needs to wake up. If the government has said this is, you have your own internal mechanism. You have all the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of all of that at the state level. They need to take a cue from every pronouncement from the federal government and begin to implement it in the grassroots. And I think if we can implement the government, I have a very positive vibe about the government. I have a positive vibe. I really don't know where I'm getting it from, but I think I have a very positive vibe. The man at the center seems to have a passion for people, and that's why they call him Jagaban and all of that. He's a people friendly. So I think based on that, his mother used to be Yao Loja in Lagos. So I think they have a connection with the grassroots. So they are able to feel the pains. But now his associates, his ministers, those at the running the government with him, needs to make sure that these things get down. They said some few days ago they are sharing 50,000. I don't know if you got your 50,000. I don't know if you got your 50,000.
A lot of people look at it as a scam.
Yes, so that's my point. And the truth of the matter, it may not be a scam from the president.
Okay.
It may just be scam, like we heard the other humanitarian minister who stories here and there about the former fund that was given last year. So this other one, they have to find a way to make sure people get it. I saw on social media people posting a lot, oh, I've gotten mine. But all people I know, our church is over 500 people. I've not seen one person who say, Pastor, I have testimony, I saw 50,000. I have a family, I have extended family, none has testified. So if I have a circle of about 2,000 people and nobody has picked 150,000, then we need to question it. So implementation is the key.
All right, so let us leave the government out of this whole equation now. As individuals, as Nigerians, how do we help ourselves? Because, you know, we cannot keep waiting on the government. What will the government do for us? What are we as individuals supposed to do for ourselves to help ourselves alleviate this poverty and this mentality that we have to sit, cross our leg and wait for one grant to come in? And also, I wanted to speak on this buying of cash, using naira to buy naira. I know the EFCC has said it that those that are selling naira should be apprehended now. So what's your take on all this?
No, the truth of the matter is I partly support the EFCC stand.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is buying currency constitutionally is wrong. And we are in a system. Let me tell you one thing, like my brother was saying earlier, the Nigerian resilient spirit, we have a way of weathering through. But the truth of the matter is we must come to a point where we tell ourselves this thing is not yet where we want it to be, and cut down on our expenses. I did a wedding over the weekend in our church, and I told the people, you do not need to wed on a Saturday. You do not need to go and rent a hall. You do not need to go do all those extravagant. We are not in that time now. The Bible talks about the times and seasons. The season where we are is the season where we need to belt up. At that point where people throw money up and down, you are assaulting and insulting the sensibilities of people. You are causing the young ones to begin to think fraud, to think I must hammer, I must make it. So that's what you are, by flying money when there's no money anywhere. So I think for that policy, the government is right. Okay. We need to come to a point where you must prune down your expenditure. Everyone must begin to look at, how do I help the other person who is a little bit underprivileged? Yeah. What do I need to do to be able to absorb one more person into my organization so that we can take off? Just this morning I was I told my wife to send some about 6 persons to do some kind of job. I said, look at about we had some people, one agency that needs jobs. So I told her, call about 6 of these persons, let them go and let them go and work here. And so we must look at how to absorb people, how to help people, how to support people. Small scale organizations, employ 1 more person. Provide, if you are rich enough, provide light for your street. Put street lights on your street, tie your roads, your small closed roads. So there are things we can do. Government will not reach everywhere, but there are things we must do as human beings. And first of all is to cut down on our expenses. We have to live a little bit moderately, not because crime also is increasing. Some days ago, a neighbor of mine was shouting, they jumped into the compound, burgled their cars. Another one said they took their generator. So imagine people stealing generator, breaking into cars. So I think it's time we all begin to be our brother's keepers. It's time we begin to think of the other man, think of the other lady, think of the other widow, think of the other street person in order to make the economy cushioned, especially to our fellows.
So would you attribute the increase of crime now to the hardship that people
Certainly,
are facing?
certainly. It's people must. I've seen people, matured people crying. It pains me. There was this young lady. We gave out some bags of rice, quarter bags of rice at Easter, and a lady who I thought was a big girl. So maybe she was ashamed to own up in public. Later she chatted me up and said, "Daddy, I've not eaten throughout today. I said, "Wow." And I told her, "But you would have come." She said, "No, you know. I now told her to come meet our security man. So I told the guy to give her the rice, oil. And that lady took it and started crying. I said, crying for what now? She said, "Daddy, you don't know. People think." I said, "I don't have a dime. I don't have 1 cup of rice. I don't have." Mature, beautiful, big girl, working girl. I said, "Wow."
Okay, she works.
She works, but she's an actress.
Oh, okay.
So their job is seasonal.
Yeah.
I was shocked that somebody you see on TV is crying that she doesn't have rice. She was crying. I said, "Wow." I had to say, take small money, buy this, because this rice and oil, you cannot even eat it on your own. I didn't know that it was that bad. So, this is a direct proportion. The hardship is what is triggering the crime rate. And
If people don't open up to tell you what they're passing through,
you will not. I say you see a well-dressed man does not have transport. Transport fare. People walk up to me and say, "Oh, they don't have." I say, "Oh, you don't have 1K." For me, it's a little bit strange, but I still do understand because we all came from the trenches. But it's difficult how it is. That's why government must. If May 29th, President Tinubu does not talk about the salaries, then I think it must be insensitive. You must add up to people's salaries. We cannot pretend about it. The state government, Delta State is a rich state. Delta State, Rivers State, Lagos State, Akwa Ibom. There are states that must say my workers earn 150 per minimum. So I don't know what this whole money you are using it for. Why not use it to let people live first? The roads you do in 4 years, you come back to do it again. The things you say you have done, the next one is you are not even holding the former people accountable. So why not let us be chopping it small, at least let us survive first.
And do the work.
And because the truth is, Delta State has no excuse. Lagos, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, a lot of these states, Bayelsa, they don't have excuse. They are the highest earners from government subventions every month. So why not let your citizens enjoy these things? So it's very, very necessary that we get to this point as a nation where there's empathy, where there's compassion, and where people at the top begin to feel the pains of the grassroots.
Okay, we'd like to thank you so much, Reverend Maya. But before we allow you go, there's this issue area. It is biting because even those of us who are also on the screen too, were also affected. And I think government has to handle that aspect critically, and that has to do with the cost of accommodation, which is biting terribly. But like in Asaba here now, the least you could go for a 3-bedroom, 1 million,
1 million
1.3,
minimum.
and how much is your salary?
That's true.
Yes, so what's the thought process as we begin to wind up quickly?
I think the government needs to put a policy in place. I was in Lagos before I came down to Asaba 2014. There was something Fashola did when he was governor in Lagos State. At that time, they used to say, pay 2 years, 3 years for housing. So he came down and said, nobody and no landlord must take more than 1 year. I think government needs to come to that point. We have a Ministry of Housing. One, they need to regulate rents. You must regulate rents. The truth of the matter is those houses we are talking about were built when cement was 100 naira.
Yes.
Some were built when cement was 500 naira. So government has a right, a moral right to regulate housing policies. And that's where they need to come and say, 3-bedroom flat, you don't pay more than 350 per annum. A room and parlor, you don't pay more than 150. They must come down on that. Why? Because the long term is you trying to build houses, and you can't even build houses for everybody. So you must come down with some very strict policy. Now you can also make 6 months rentage legal.
Yes.
So tell people, pay for 6 months if you cannot take monthly rents. Abroad, they take monthly rents.
Yes.
So because they know that as you earn, you divide your money. This is for rent, this is for transportation. So why we may not be able to do monthly because of our haphazard calendar of earnings. Some months, the salary moves into the next month. But you could do a 6 month policy. You could also say, this is the pegging for houses, a duplex 1 million, a 3-bedroom flat 350, 400, this and all of that. And I think if they put people in place, let me tell you one thing about the resilient spirit of Nigerians. People drive one way. When you bring in Okowa police or those guys on blue, Desma, people begin to drive one way and begin to drive correctly. Initially, they will resist and grumble, but once you are working for the masses, they will back you up, and the landlords will only grumble. Before you know, they will amend. They will, when you pick. Now, I was, like I told you, a daughter of mine wedded over the weekend. Nobody was able to spray. I was at a pastor's birthday yesterday. He said, please don't spray. You know, UFCC is watching all of us. I say, well, this is a good one. So everybody is now afraid of spraying money so that you are not caught on camera and apprehended. It's the same way. Just take 2-3 landlords, use them as scapegoats. Yes. Others will align. And government needs to come down strong. These fellows just wake up and want to do what they like. Now agency, they tell you, those days I read estate management. I'm an estate surveyor and valuer by profession. It used to be 10%, 5%. Now they tell you your house is, they will just give you a flat amount, pay 200 as agency, 200 as agreement. It doesn't work anywhere. So now these institutions need to enforce this. Legal 5%, agency 5%.
Yes.
And so that, because that's the way you must holistically cushion the effect on the populace for it to work. And so government needs to do more. It's unfortunate that we really cannot speak to them. We believe that such things will get to them that we are doing here, but they need to get to the scene. Maybe because government pays their housing, transport, wardrobe allowance and all of that, so they are disconnected from the reality. But we need to get to that point where government must stamp down on landlords.